Hello, everyone. I'm amazed that you all found the room because it was quite a mystery in the app. We didn't know where our presentation was supposed to start, but I'm happy that so many people are here. Welcome to our session. I'm Elena, and this is my colleague Sonja, and we are both RIS managers at the University of Vienna using Pure, and we are both also project managers and product owners in the RIS Synergy project. And our session today is on developing standardized interfaces for the automatic exchange of project and publication metadata. This is a very long title. Maybe this is the reason for why the room was missing. Okay, so what are we going to do in this session? First of all, I'm just giving a very brief overview of the RIS Synergy project, and then we'll go into more detail on two specific use cases that we implemented or are in the process of implementing at the University of Vienna using Pure. So RIS Synergy, as you can see, started in March 2020. What a significant date, right at the beginning of the pandemic. And we're still operating until the end of the year, so we're wrapping up everything now. We have about 2 more months to go. This project was commissioned and also funded by the Federal Ministry of Education, Science and Research, and it is a national project. So 14 from, in total, 22 universities of Austria are part of this project, and also, and this is our unique selling point, 4 funding organizations are also collaborating with us on developing interfaces. So what are the goals of this project? We have 2 goals. The first one, and this is actually the bread and butter of this project, the main part of the project is the interfaces for research information. And the second goal is we are working on a concept study for an Austrian research portal. This doesn't mean that we will, like in Israel, get a national portal, but we did study this concept for about 4 years and analyzed some use cases. But today I'm not going to go into detail into that. We're going to talk about the interfaces. Why do we need interfaces for automatic data exchange in Austria? Well, before RIS Synergy started, the situation was this. Data on third-party funded research projects was monitored, and the data was entered as well in the RIS systems of the universities as well as in the funders' databases. And you had to enter the data twice. There was no automatic data exchange, and this is quite a tedious task for researchers as well as research support staff. So with the RIS Synergy interfaces, we facilitate automatic data exchange. We use open metadata standards such as CERIF and the OpenAir guidelines for RIS managers, and we follow the once-only principle. So this enhances data quality, and there is more time for research. We develop interfaces for funding programs, projects, publications, organizational units, and also financial reports. And what does this look like in the research life cycle? We have this meta process model, but you could actually also depict this as a cycle. So everything starts with a call from the funder, and this call is provided by the funder to the university. Then there is an application for this call for a project. Then best case scenario, the project also happens, and then we want to monitor the project. We do as a university, but so do the funders. We both need the same data, financial reports and research output of those third-party funded projects. We're now going to talk about the use cases, and Sonja will start talking about the project data use case.
Thanks, Elena. So yeah, I'm working on the interface for the application and project data alongside with my colleague Jakob Puttinger, who unfortunately couldn't join us at the conference. And together with our programmer Kirill, we are developing a middleware solution, or more precisely, a configurable software tool. So as mentioned, the RIS Synergy project provides established standards for exchanging research information metadata in line with international models like CERIF and creating a unified RIS data exchange format. And the aim of the tool is to retrieve application and project data provided by the funding organization in RIS format via the interface, and compared with the data in the university's own system, also retrieved via an interface, and in our case, in pure format. So if necessary, we can enrich the data or create new records in this tool, and at the moment we call it just the import tool. So that's a broad overview of what the tool does, and now I would like to walk you through its main functions. So we expect that the primary users of this tool will be the CRIS managers or the research support staff. So as a CRIS manager, for example, you could use the input tool to check for new projects that you might want to add to your system or for updates to existing projects. And here is how the process works. So first, as I showed you in the graphic before, the tool retrieves the project data from both the funding organization project API and the CRIS project API. And at the moment, we are mainly working with one funding agency called FWF, and they provide at the moment project data, and next year they will also provide the application data. And then you can also filter what you want to see, which data you want to compare in the tool. For example, just the active projects, which can be very useful. And then the tool compares the project records by matching identifiers like RIS Synergy or crossref grant ID or project numbers. And if one of these matches, the tool identifies the data set as representing the same project. And if the project already exists in the system, the tool checks if any of these fields have differing information. And these differences are displayed clearly in the tool, so users can easily decide if they want to update the information or just leave it as it is. And if the project doesn't exist yet, a new dataset can also be created. And at this stage, the tool compares information on the people involved in the project and has to match it with the people in their own system. For this, it uses information like the ORCID or the email address or just the full name. And then the tool suggests the best match, highlighting also the match accuracy. And also the affiliation has to be matched, where the person is linked to. And also, like with the person matching, the tool always just makes a suggestion, and the user must confirm the selection manually. So when creating, for example, a new project, the tool also supports importing abstracts or keywords. For example, we have the Austrian fields of science or other free text keywords, all of which can be automatically pulled into the system. Now let me just give you a brief overview of our progress so far. So the first step in this project was to develop a working prototype of the tool that is compatible with the Pure format, with the Pure system, which we did in collaboration with the University of Salzburg, as they are also using Pure in their CRIS. And we are currently in the second phase, where we're expanding the prototype into a system-agnostic tool that works with the RIS data model, so not just Pure, and that our partner universities can easily implement and configure the tool within their own system. So we ensure that the tool meets the requirements of all the universities in the consortium, which is one reason the project is quite complex. In terms of progress, we're about 50% finished, and with another 30% in active development. So, for example, the last feature the programmer added last week was the file upload feature, which is useful for data enrichment when, for example, you receive data from the funding agency already in the RIS format, but they don't yet have an interface. So next I will give you a brief overview of how we integrated the tool with our CRIS and what configurations were needed. The first step was mapping the RIS format to the Pure format. We did this by simply assigning the data we received from the funding organization FWF to the corresponding fields in Pure, which we organized just in an Excel spreadsheet for the developer. And in the RIS standard we developed, we merged the informations about the projects and the applications. And as you know, in Pure we have 3 categories, as you can see. So the applications, award grants, and projects. So we had to be careful when mapping the data, clearly defining what information should be stored under each type when pushing the data in our system. And then we needed to connect the tool to the relevant APIs. So on one hand, the funding agency was developing an interface to which our developer got the access. And on the other hand, we used the Pure API. And to this, only a few settings had to be made in the Pure system for the API query, as you can see on the foil. And now let's have a quick look on the next steps for the project. So we offer the tool as a software as a service at the moment, and currently we're hosting the tool decentralized. So each university can run it independently if needed. Moving forward, our goal is to transition to a shared service model. However, this year we've realized that the development effort required for this is too high. So, for example, terms of use and data protection regulations must be created for this. And we are currently focusing our resources on implementing the remaining features and addressing the requests from the universities in the whole consortium. So after the project ends this year, we plan to stabilize the input tool in another project called RISnet. And at this stage, then we will work on converting the tool into a shared service. Of course, that will bring up additional considerations, like who is doing the support, and also issues like authentication or credentials still need to be clarified to make sure that the universities only get the data from their own data, access to their own data, sorry. And so there is still a lot to do, but we know for sure that the tool will be made available as open source, and the download will be hosted on GitHub soon, but before that we need to issue a proper license and set up also a good user documentation. Yes, and with that I will hand back to Elena.
Thank you. And I will close our session with an overview of our second use case, which is reporting research output with OpenAIRE. So as I've said, both universities and funding agencies are interested in monitoring the research output of a third-party funded project. And yesterday I got the news that ResearchFish is actually able to provide an API to get research information from Pure to ResearchFish. But when we started our project, the RIS Synergy project, the developer of ResearchFish actually that they are not able to develop such an API within the timeline of the project. Why ResearchFish? Because the national funder that was mentioned by Sonja, FWF, together with them, we're implementing this pilot, and they are using ResearchFish. So we had to come up with a different solution, and we decided to take a detour with using OpenAir, specifically the service OpenAir provide. What does this look like? So as a Pure customer, we're very lucky because we have the OAI PMH interface out of the box, and we only had to configure it, registered then for OpenAir Provide. And then in ResearchFish, there is an OpenAir API available, and the FWF can import that data into ResearchFish. What did we have to do? We did the configuration, and then we registered with RIS, provided by RIS. Data collection started actually last June, after the whole registration process was finished. And unfortunately, today I cannot present a proof of concept, so our data has not been published by OpenAir yet. We have been harvested, the data has been enriched, but it is not in the other available in the other portals provided by OpenAir. So ResearchFish can, at the moment, not yet import it via the API, but we were very excited if it will happen in the next few days, which is what they promised us. So I'll keep you updated if you're interested. That is the second use case. If you're interested in the project RIS Synergy, please check out our website or talk to us in the coffee breaks. We're happy also to talk about the other use cases that we're working on. And I don't know if there is any time for questions, but I would like to finish this presentation with a question to the audience. Is anybody else working with OpenAir? And if so, what are your experiences? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elena and Sonja. We do have time for a couple of questions. Next session is due in 10 minutes. But maybe first, your question, who has experience with OpenAir?
Yeah, so we've been working with OpenAir, but I don't know if it's organized the same in Austria as in the Netherlands. We try to build a Dutch portal using OpenAir, but that doesn't go so well. So they've been harvesting us, but then the update is already a year old. So I think it was February 23rd that we were last. That's what's seen on the portal. So maybe we've been harvested in the meantime, but it's not visible. So that is our experience. So I don't want to make you pessimistic. I hope it's the Dutch situation. And then I have a question for you, because in the first project, I was triggered a bit by the user interface that you wanted to build for the data curation and cleaning. I was just wondering, why would you like to do this in a user interface? Is that because of the resources that you have? Yeah, I can imagine that you can also do this behind the scenes. So I'm curious why that was necessary.
We need a user interface because we don't want it fully automatically. Because, yeah, as you know, maybe when importing like Scopus publications and the matching of the affiliations is happening, there are coming a lot of wrong affiliations into the system. So we always want a user to decide which data we really choose. So we need a user interface that it highlights which with the match accuracy to choose which is the right person or the right affiliation.
And who is the user then in your case? Because I just wonder, like, you could also put a developer there that can do that corrects the matching. So which users do you aim for?
Just the CRIS managers or research support staff, so that we choose which is the right data. So yeah, there can be written a code for importing it automatically, but you can never be sure that there is the right data coming in. So that's why we wanted to make.
And thanks for letting us know about OpenAir. I'm sure the problem is at their end, unfortunately, but maybe we can come up with something together.
Okay, following up with Karin's question, the next phase for a probably national showcasing portal could be something we call ORI, and then we implement data from all Pure instances, etc. But what we found out is it's very hard to do so if we don't use common identifiers. So ORCID is known, but not fully implemented yet. And to be honest, we started to do so 5 years ago. So I'm curious if you're focusing on the same thing. But on top of ORCID, I think you need things like publicly shared RORs, publicly shared rates, so research activity identifiers, etc., etc. And perhaps we could also discuss this topic with our friends of Elsevier, because they also have their identifiers, and maybe we can make a big link of all available identifiers to make things as easy as possible to exchange them.
Absolutely.
Is that something to consider in your project as well?
Yes, we did consider this. So when I mentioned the metadata, international metadata standards, I only mentioned CERIF and the OpenAir guidelines, but actually we are working specifically with persistent identifiers. So Sonja mentioned the ORCID ID, but we are also working with ROR ID, Ringgold ID, which I know is not an open standard, but it is widely used in Austria. Then we have the grant IDs. We're very lucky that our funders are using the Crossref grant ID, but we have not yet seen a need for using RAID because this is not compatible with our data module. But yeah, PIDs are at the core of our interfaces.
I think we can do one more question, but then we need to wrap up. So.
I thank you for this presentation. It's great. I just wondering what are your plans after in 2 months? What are you going to do with the project, and who is going to? I'm sorry, I'm making you sad.
No. I was just looking at Michael, who also is working on this project with us together, and he was covering his ears because it hurts. Yeah, but we will have to work on this still at our institutions with in-kind, and of course we're looking out for additional funding.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sonja, Elena.